The Prime Minister met with some of Canada's top business leaders this afternoon. They discussed vaccines, jobs, and Canada's economic recovery from the pandemic. Public Services and Procurement Minister Anita Anand was part of that discussion and joins us now from Oakville, Ontario. Minister Anand, welcome back to the show.
Hi, David. Nice to be here.
It's great to have you. I want to start with the meeting that you had this afternoon with the Prime Minister and some business leaders from across the country. Can you tell us what was discussed and what the message from these leaders was to the government?
Most definitely, and thanks for having me on. I will say that one of the reasons I was at the meeting was to explain the ramp up in vaccine procurement that we are going to be seeing over the next weeks and months. We are on track to see 6 million doses cumulative in Q1, and then we're going to be 29 million cumulative in Q2 and 84 million doses of Pfizer and Moderna alone in Q3. And so the point that I was making this afternoon is that we are going to see an extremely steep incline. Indeed, it's going to look like this over the next few weeks and months. And we need to make sure that it's all hands on deck to ensure an efficient and smooth deployment and rollout of those vaccines. And from their perspective, they were very enthusiastic about supporting the federal government in the effort, as well as the provincial governments, in terms of making sure that vaccines are distributed very efficiently once they're in this country. So, of course, I'm in charge of the procurement aspect of the file, and we are going to see vaccines coming into the country by the millions. And we discussed what happens after that.
Okay, but the business leaders won't play necessarily a direct role in that, right? Because you're meeting with like bankers and stuff, and while pharmacists may be injecting vaccines, I don't think we're going to see bankers and economists doing that sort of stuff. But one of the things I know industry is looking for is rapid deployment of rapid tests to get it out there and allow them to open up and operate at close to normal capacity while using rapid tests to catch potential outbreaks. Was there any discussion on that, any update on that point?
We didn't discuss rapid tests because the meeting was particularly focused on vaccines, but I will mention that the federal government has purchased 40.5 million rapid tests, distributed over 20 million rapid tests to the provinces and territories, and we are very much hoping that they will continue to utilize those rapid tests because vaccines aren't going to be a silver bullet. Public health care measures aren't a silver bullet. We need to use rapid tests, public health care measures, and vaccines to combat this virus once and for all.
So on vaccines, one of the issues that we've heard some concern about since the changing of the Pfizer label to go to 6 doses instead of 5 doses, it's the need of the special syringe to get that extra dose consistently. I know you've ordered like 60 million of those, so supply shouldn't be a problem. But we've heard from people even this week, like General Rick Hillier, saying it only still works about 80% of the time. So, I mean, how concerned are you that the Pfizer doses we're getting, we may not actually be able to extract the full value of that because of these reported problems from people in charge of vaccine rollout in the biggest province?
So just to be clear, in terms of our procurements, we have procured 72.5 million low dead volume syringes in an era of extremely tight global competition. So some jurisdictions, Japan, for example, could not procure those syringes. We were out there and we have already 2 million of those syringes in the country. And in terms of the extraction of doses from the vials, which pertains to your question directly, we procured those syringes to ensure the most expeditious and efficient extraction of doses from each vial. And I believe that Health Canada, in its approval process, put a number of conditions on the approval so that there should be some feedback mechanism from the provinces to Health Canada, which is a separate regulator, of course, so that they can refine the process. But from a procurement perspective, we're in charge of buying the syringes, and that's exactly what we've done.
Okay, so if they still run into problems even with the syringes, the feedback mechanism that is as part of the approval could see us getting extra vials from Pfizer to make good on it if it becomes problematic and doesn't always work? Is that the safeguard that's in place?
Well, actually, our contracts are for doses, not vials. So, with Pfizer and Moderna, the two approved suppliers, we have 40 million doses plus procured, and we will continue to receive those doses into this country.
Right,
That's what our contract
but if, as General Hillier says, there's a challenge in getting the doses out of the vial, right? Because they have to come in a vial. I know that the contract is for, and even with the new syringes, that they're still only getting 80% of what, they only get it at 80% of the time. Are we going to be kept whole if General Hillier, as he says, they keep having some issues here?
Most definitely. We will continue to work with Pfizer to ensure that we are kept whole. They have not reneged on their contracts to date, and we expect our positive and solid relationship with this company will continue throughout all of these bumps in the road that we are managing.
So we've been going through this vaccine roller coaster through the first couple of months of this year, right? Where the Pfizer interruption in particular was acutely felt, and Moderna's deliveries have been smaller than anticipated. I know the contracts say that it's quarterly deliveries for the first quarter, so things have to be delivered here by the end of March. Is that the process moving into the second quarter and the third quarter of the year? Like, do they have to have it here by the end of June or by the end of August, or would it be a more consistent and regular weekly delivery schedule? Like, could we be back into these low periods of shipments that we're just coming out of now?
I do not foresee that we would be back into an experience like we have just come out of. We have to remember that with this completely new technology, there are bound to be supply chain wrinkles that need to be ironed out, and that's exactly what happened with Pfizer and Moderna. And as soon as the PERS facility in Belgium was up and running again, we started to get completely solid weekly delivery schedules from Pfizer. 400,000 plus doses coming into this country every week until the end of March, and then a steep ramp up thereafter. We're going to see almost 1 million doses coming into this country from Pfizer and Moderna alone over the next week or two. And I just want to mention that we are headed towards a very steep ramp up of vaccines coming into this country, and all hands are going to need to be on deck in order to ensure that they're deployed as efficiently as possible.
Okay, so but the contract is still for quarterly deliveries. You just don't anticipate supply interruptions because we're kind of through that.
That's exactly
that agreement
right.
process. Okay, and you mentioned Moderna. We still don't. You expect 1.3 million in March in 2 shipments. Do you know yet how big those shipments are going to be? Because there still appears to be a bit of a supply issue with the Moderna vaccine.
That is something that I spoke with Moderna about this week. As I mentioned, I am constantly on the phone with the suppliers to ensure that our vaccine supply is protected. They did confirm that they are good for the 1.3 million doses in the month of March, and mentioned that the first shipment of those doses will be smaller than the second shipment while that company continues to refine its distribution mechanism and supply chain. But we will receive the 1.3 million for the month of March in 2 shipments.
Okay, Minister Anand, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, David. Have a great weekend.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.